So, a couple things. Today, we're going to answer questions that you guys wrote in either through email or on Instagram. Obviously, a lot of questions came in, so we did our best to tune into the different themes and pull ones that seem relative to everybody. We have a special event that we're going to be doing next Sunday, I believe, right, Casey?
The 17th.
The 17th at 4 o'clock? Okay. So next...
We'll get back to you on that
one. We're going to be doing a special event for Starseeds. If you're in the Starseed, you've been in Starseed class 1 at all ever, you're eligible to be on that call next week, and we are going to attune you to the vibration of magic and do a Merlin activation. And we're also going to have a drawing for a really special wand. So I know wands sometimes seem fun and silly, but with the energy that we're working with, they are going to be important. So here is an example of my wand that was designed and made specifically for me, kind of has my energy and vibration, and there's a woman who makes these incredible wands, and she is going to, 3 people will win them by entering in your email. I mean, you're already on my email list, but just so we have you. So anybody who's on the call next Sunday who's been in Starseed classes at all is eligible for to get into the lottery, and 3 wands are going to go out. Each wand is worth $333. They're really beautiful, like beautiful sacred wands. So that will be fun. If you haven't taken Starseed, you want to be part of that community, just between now and next Sunday, you can get the recorded version and catch up, so you can join us for Starseed 2, and it will be at a very special price just for the week, and it will be the recorded material. That's 15 hours of teachings with the Angel Raphael, activations, and 154 pages of a PDF of in-depth information. So put that on your calendar, share it with all your friends. Anybody who took Starseed and absolutely loved it, let anybody know that they can get the recordings and then join us for Starseed 2 and get in the drawing for the wand. So that just is something fun that we're doing, and that'll be next Sunday. All right, so today I'm going to channel the Angel Raphael as usual, and we're going to answer questions. If there's anybody new who happens to be on this call, my name's Kelly Kolodny. I channel the Angel Raphael, been doing it a long time, and I'm here to help humanity wake up. That's my job, and to be an open vessel for this beautiful light that comes through with messages. When I channel, I close my eyes. I kind of make a toning sound. It's not the most beautiful sound, but you gotta bear with it. That's me attuning to the vibration of the Angel Raphael. Once Raphael arrives, I start to say hello, and my son Casey, who is in the classes with all of us, will say hello back. And then Raphael will come in and start talking, and he's going to ask questions that were written into Instagram today. All right. Wonderful. Anybody else have any questions? All people from all over the world, as always, so much fun. Really quick, because I know a lot of people just kind of jumped on at the last minute. If you didn't hear the beginning of the call, next Sunday is a very special activation to attune to the vibration of magic with Merlin, and we're going to give away 3 beautiful wands. Each of them I am purchasing and will be attuned to the winners and made specifically for you. So they're really going to be beautiful. They cost $333. So they're gorgeous wands, like really beautiful. And you have had to have been either in Starseed class, or you have to get it this week at a reduced price to all the recordings and start catching up. So you can be ready for Starseed 2, October 23rd. All right, so I guess it's time to get going. Anything else that we have to announce today, Case? And phones are off, and we're ready to go. All right. last thing, much gratitude to all of you for the beautiful donations last week, for the activation that I did. If you didn't have a chance to get on that call last week, that activation cleared energy blockages from the time of conception through being in the womb up to age 7. It's very powerful. You can watch it for free on YouTube, and if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, if you skip through, I don't know, into about 10 minutes in, it's where we start to move into the actual activation. Highly recommend it. Very powerful. All right. To be here from the angelic realm and to talk to you about whatever it is you are wanting to talk about, and that's our understanding that you have presented the specific questions that you would like us to answer. And so, what is it?
Hi, Raphael. So we're going to go through the Instagram questions, and the first one is from the handle Sia Mama, and I'll just read it to you. As we shift into this new reality, and so many of us have awakened and are transitioning into different careers that have to do with our calling, it is difficult to quell the fear that comes along with so much change. Do you have any specific practices or advice to allow us to remain focused and not get pulled into the worries about finances or others' opinions?
We are recognizing that moving out of fear for many of you is difficult, for it is not something that you are used to or aligned with. And as we had been working with this vibration in the last few days, it is around the energy and the vibration of trust. And when it is that you are in a place of trust, whether that be in trusting that everything is going to work out and that you're going to have the dollars or the money or whatever it is you are needing in order to express the calling of whatever it is you are wanting to do, then as you align with that vibration of trust, or perhaps you might label it as the word faith, all really does play out in its divine perfection, and you have everything in which you are needing. And yet it is human nature, because of the programming that you have been conditioned to project beyond the time presence of where it is you are into the future, into a wondering that you may not have enough. And it's very obvious, and you all know this, that when you start to think that you don't have enough, or you're not going to have enough, or you're worried if it's going to work out or what's going to happen, of course you perpetuate that and create that, and that becomes your experience. And although you know that, you have conscious awareness of it, it can be difficult for you in the human experience. And first of all, we want to acknowledge that it's not always easy being human. And although I, as Archangel Raphael, have never been in a human body, I can witness it from this perspective, and I attune to the vibration of many who have left their body, or what you might call death, and are aligning in the same quadrant energy of where it is that I am. And I have deep understanding of what, in a sense, you have experienced and gone through. And so we are not dismissing in any way the difficultness of being clothed in the veil of forgetting, and that in that forgetting you can deeply get caught in this energy that you call, or vibration, fear. But we want to remind you that everything is about your thought. It is about your awareness of where you are putting your energy. And it is that if you can drop, of course, into the presence of where it is you are now, almost in any single moment that you can find, whatever it is, even in what might appear to be the darkest of moments, even then, in that moment, all is well. Even if you are sitting holding the hand of a loved one on their deathbed and wondering whether they're going to make it or not, which might appear to be of dire circumstances, even in that difficultness, there is a spaciousness where you can find the perfection, where you can be in the presence of peace. And it is that when you can find that spaciousness, even in those darkest places, you can bring that spaciousness to anything. And in doing so, the fear has nowhere to grab onto. It has nowhere to live. For fear can only live in the past, and it can only live in the future. But it has no place in the presence of the now. It is much like the ego. Ego and fear are aligned in the same vibrational Hertz frequency. And it is that they love to move into the familiar. So if the familiar vibration that you are holding is that of anxiety and fear, it will keep aligning to what is familiar because it can anchor that in something other than the presence. And as it anchors that, it can be placed in form. And when you're engaged in only in form itself rather than the negative space or the void or the absence of form, you can align with the vibration of fear. But when you move out of form, meaning when you move into the void or the spaciousness or awareness or the place of nothingness or the 0 point, there's all kinds of words that you can place around what that is, then fear has nowhere to grip because it cannot align with the ego, because the ego has nothing to attach itself to because form is not present and there is nothing familiar in the sense that it wants to attach to. And so it is that it requires a diligent effort on all of your parts to continuously move into the empty space, to the space between the thought, to the breath, to meditation, to allowing everything around you to drop until you're in the spaciousness of nothingness, to moving into the 0 point. And the more you can begin to spend time doing this, and that's why many of your great sages or wisdom keepers and light showers meditate for such long periods of time, is that they are expanding their consciousness into the void of nothingness. And the more you do that, the more it grows and expands. And the more it expands, there is no place for fear, but you begin to align with the vibration of faith or trust. Because trust is when you know at the deepest level of every aspect of your being, of who it is that you are, that everything is divinely perfect because you are eternal. For it is only in the limited idea that you are separate that forms the idea that you are finite. And in that separateness energetic pattern of feeling as though there is a completion date to the aspect of who you are, can fear arise. But when you expand into the awareness of emptiness and nothingness, you move into the eternal, to the unified field, to oneness, to the expansion of who it is that you really are. And it is that from that place, of course, everything is aligning in its perfect alignment for your highest good. And you begin to understand and recognize that you are aligning it. You are putting it there for the exponential growth of your human experience, that you orchestrated all of this. You are the conductor of all of these things. You are putting them all in place. And as you take absolute and complete responsibility for everything that is unfolding in your experience without defensiveness, without fear, without anxiety, without doubt, with just a recognizing that it is there in alignment for the perfection of who you are, you begin to expand that awareness into the place of trust. And we talked about trust the other day, and it is that we want you to know that you're always trusting in something. And you can trust in that everything is going to work out, or you can trust that it's not going to work out. Either way, you're trusting in something. And so it's where you choose to put your trust is going to reflect back to you exactly what is going to happen. And so you might say, well, I'm afraid that I'm not going to trust that it's going to work out. That's common, that I want to trust, I want to have faith, but I'm not, and because I'm not, then I'm afraid it won't. Well, then of course it won't. And so how do you get to that place of absolute trust? You have to trust in self. Because you're always looking outside of self, thinking, I'm trusting in the universe, I am trusting in God, or whatever, it has my back. But really, from our perspective, in which you will begin to have a greater awareness of at the time of death, when you leave the physical form and you ascend into higher consciousness, you will see that whatever the label is that you have for God or the universe is not separate from you, but is you, dwells within you, that you are a part of that. And so it is not about trusting outside of self, but trusting your own self, which means that to any place in your human experience where you're not trusting yourself or you're in denial of something, you need to bring it to the surface, face it square on, bring compassion and love to it, and be honest with yourself. A lot of you all talk about integrity and being honest with others and speaking your truth. And that's all very important. But are you speaking your truth to yourself? And are there hidden places in which you are not honest with yourself? And I would like you to take inventory of that, perhaps write about that and look at it. What could be an example of that? Perhaps you're not even honest with yourself about what you're eating, if it's good for you or not. Somehow in your mind you've convinced yourself you eat all this good food. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Perhaps you're eating more than you should be. Perhaps you've convinced yourself when someone asks you how often do you exercise, you give them a day. Are you really doing that? Are you lying to them and in a sense to self, to feel good about self, where you're not? Then what's happening is your own inner self isn't actually trusting what it is that you are saying. So you need to build trust with your own self. And in doing that, then you can trust in yourself to align with the vibration that as you follow your passion and as you do the work of your calling that is coming to you, that you trust that everything will align, that you will be cared for, and that you will receive the abundance necessary to continue to do that with ease and grace, and to live in a place in which all the things that you are needing and wanting are accessible and available to you in abundance. Because you see, it is your birthright for abundance, but somehow you guys have all decided that abundance is relatable to hierarchy, depending on what you think is of value or not of value. So a lot of times people will be working at something that they hate or do not like. Let's say they're working at a bank and they really don't like that and they really want to be an artist, but they have to keep working at the bank because they have to make money. But who is it that has said in your collective thinking that working at the bank is more valuable than creating this extraordinary, beautiful painting? One is not more valuable than another, but somehow you guys have all decided that one is and not. And it's quite interesting that collectively you have chosen the bank to be of more value than the art. Why is that? Curious, isn't it? That the creative force that brings forth creativity and life and expression is somehow seen, or music or poetry or acting or whatever, many of these things in the arts do not give, unless they're at a very super high level, the same abundance that something else that in many ways might seem a bit ordinary. And it is all around your belief that you've all decided that. And who decided that and why? And what's happening is that all these patterns in the structure are all beginning to collapse, in which you're building a new game. And what if you decide that doing that work creates enormous amount of abundance because the others begin to value it? And so if you're not valuing it, the expression of what you want to bring forth to the world in the creation process, then others aren't valuing it. And as more others value it, it becomes valued. And then it is that you are able to do it and receive that which you are needing. So when you align with a knowing of deep faith and trust and you take that leap, you are completely protected in the sense that things will, and it might take up to the last second, it might be 30 seconds before the deadline of your mortgage payment, but it will come. The money will always present itself in the knowing and the trusting that you're in alignment with the gift that you have to share and that you're doing it. It will show up. But it is a test, in a sense, an initiation and a willingness to take that leap of faith. And then once you pass the initiation of that threshold and you really are in trusting, you'll begin to have something occur that will verify that that is so. And once that happens, it starts to give you evidence that it is true. And you begin to then believe it. And when you begin to believe it, more evidence continues to pile on because you're attracting more toward the belief in which you're in alignment with until you find yourself sitting in enormous abundance, sharing the gift of what you were meant to do. And so it is really about creating that spaciousness, trusting in the now, knowing that in the presence of where it is you are, that all is well, and having faith in yourself, trust in yourself, by finding any crevices that need to be turned over where you are not really, truly living up to what you tell yourself is true.
Thank you, Archangel Raphael. And so our next question is kind of in a similar vein of what are we trusting in? And this comes from Courtney Gallagher. And a while ago, you said it's not a good idea to prepare for the worst. So she said, Raphael said preparing for the worst isn't a good idea. Would love to hear more on this topic.
Oh, preparing for the worst in what way?
So a lot of people right now are preparing for the worst in terms of they feel that things are kind of collapsing around us in terms of our government and what's going to happen, and buying food so that they're prepared for if there was a food shortage or all of these types of things.
Well, if you're preparing for a food shortage, then there'll be a food shortage. Right?
Right.
So yes, of course, there's always been in your history that you would prepare, just like you have a savings account, right, for a rainy day, or perhaps crops of food have been canned over the winter months because you're preparing for the spring to come. And so yes, there is some practicality in a certain amount of preparation that is practical. But when you're preparing out of fear, then you're perpetuating fear and you're expanding that vibration, you're attracting it to you, and you're going to find yourself in circumstances in which you're desperately afraid, or you're needing these things which you've been preparing for, or you're adding to the collective consciousness of creating something that is based in scarcity, not enough, or survival. And so it depends upon the preparation, the energy and the vibration behind the preparation. If it's simply done in a nonchalant, relaxed way that's very practical, when I'm building a fire, I want to keep my matches dry. Yeah, that's a good idea, isn't it? You don't want to leave them out in the rain. It's very practical, and because you might need to light the fire to make the food. But if you're afraid and you're building something out of fear and you're stockpiling all kinds of things to protect yourself from outside world and elements, that's a whole different scenario. Because what are you really protecting yourself from? When you really look at it, the final thing you're protecting yourself from is death. Well, death is inevitable. You're going to die. So I don't know why you're protecting yourself from that. You're here to fully engage and play and be light in the feel, the sense of everything and all the senses of being alive. And if you're preparing all the time for the worst case scenario and all of your energy is in that, then you're not really living in the presence of the now. You're in the future of something that may or may not happen, which is based in fear and anxiety, which perpetuates fear and anxiety, which creates that which you're worried about in the first place. And so we're not saying that you don't have in your refrigerator milk and eggs or whatever it is you might need for tomorrow morning's breakfast. There's certain parts of practicality that one has to prepare for to make life somewhat easy. And perhaps there'll be a slowing down in what you call your supply chain, right? That timeline is up for grabs right now. And it might really accentuate itself, in which there'll be certain things that you won't be able to get that you love. And if you want to prepare for that, you can do that, but not out of fear, not out of anxiety, not out of protecting and I have to stay safe, because there isn't anything that really can keep you safe except the love that dwells in your own heart. And the vibration in which you're carrying will keep you much safer than the food or whatever you want to stockpile, the water or, God forbid, the gun or whatever it might be, to protect yourself. That's not actually going to keep you safe, because what's interesting about that is that when you're in the survival mode, you're vibrating at a very low frequency, right? It's down at the root chakra, and it's based in fear, and it's right here. And when you start vibrating at that frequency, guess what you're attracting to you? The same frequency. Meaning that someone who lives next door to you might be vibrating way up here, completely oblivious, in complete joy and love, playing their beautiful music, looking out at their garden, not aware perhaps that they are needing to prepare for this calamity that's going to happen. And the calamity might be not what you're thinking. Perhaps it's a tornado, and it happens to come, and it just knocks your house into pieces, in which you really need all that food you've been preparing, and your next door neighbor, they're still out playing their music. They didn't even notice it happened. They're not vibrating at that frequency. Now, that's a natural disaster. We don't want to get into the fact that natural disasters are necessarily in alignment with the vibration you're holding, because that is not actually so. But it was just an example, or perhaps it is that you're so afraid that you have all these bolts on your door and you're so locked in and protected, and you're vibrating at that frequency, you are much more likely to be robbed than the neighbor next door whose door is unlocked, because they're not vibrating at that frequency. So they're not attracting the robber because they're not afraid of it. They're almost invisible to it because they're not on that same frequency, you see. So it is important to take practical steps in certain things, yes, but you never want to prepare for the worst. You want to prepare for the absolute best outcome. You want to prepare for the most magnificent thing that could be and get ready for that, so that that is what it is. And that is about you starting to remember that you are master creators, vibrating at different levels of frequency, aligning with that frequency that it projects the reality that you know to be true.
Thank you, Archangel Raphael. And so from Courtney Gallagher, just to finish off this topic, the last question was of hers, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. If the fear consciousness was gone from the collective consciousness, then would control structures / negative beings not have any power?
We love this concept of negative beings. It's quite funny, really. What are negative beings? Negative beings are a frequency based in fear, based in lower quadrant vibrations, right? That's what negative beings are. Their ego is amplified, really, really amplified, and so that they're in a power struggle. But when you're vibrating beyond that power struggle and beyond the ego, from the heart center and above, you're not lining up with those vibrations. They're not coming into your experience. You might be completely oblivious to them. So yes, when the fear across the globe begins to disintegrate or dissolve, right? As you start, more and more of you begin vibrating with the vibration of love, then of course those beings, they're not there because they're invisible to you, because you're not in a vibration that matches with them. So they don't exist. They only exist because they're still a vibrational match. And so what are they? They're the boogeyman in the sky, right? They're all out to get you, these dark beings. But really, they can only feed off of you. They can only harness their power if you, not meaning you particularly who's asking the question, but you on a collective level, are vibrating with fear, because that's their food. They eat that up. And they love to create fear and division and pivot yourselves against one another, so you're distracted from elevating your vibration to love. The thing that they are fearing the most is love. They are fearing unity consciousness. They are fearing you waking up because they have nothing to feed off. Then they're going to starve themselves and disappear. But don't give them power by identifying them even as dark beings, dark forces. That in itself is giving them power, because even you thinking about that they even exist is acknowledging that they are, which is amplifying their power. So even if you believe that they exist, you're still vibrating with something that, if you believe that they exist and you call them these dark boogeyman beings of energy, right, the dark forces, and you're acknowledging them, that means on some level you're afraid of them. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be acknowledging them. And so you're giving them fuel, which is feeding them and making them bigger, which is allowing their ego to amplify, which keeps the structure of hierarchy in place. And it is what has created such great division across the globe. Because their game is to create division. Because if they create division, then you're fighting one another. And what happens when you're fighting one another? What vibration are you in? You're either in anger, frustration, right? Victimhood, martyr, ego. You're in those quadrants. You're not vibrating with love, joy, adventure, playfulness, and bliss when you're in division. And so then they're winning. It's a big distraction game to get you all excited about something that's really irrelevant and get you to fight about it. That's how the dark energies that you call them stay alive. That's what they eat off of. They feed on your fear, your anger, your sense of creating division, your frustration, all those lower vibrations. And so we don't mean to be in denial that they exist, right? We're not talking about denial. We're talking about moving out of their hemisphere, moving out of their vibrational quadrant into the elevation of a new consciousness based in unity and love, seeing beyond that of the personality, that of the political party, that of the ideology, all of that, to the essence of another, and finding something within them that you can resonate and love with to create more unity. And when you begin to do that, they can't feed off of that. And the more of you that are doing that, the more they shrink and dissolve until they are insignificant and not even in your awareness anymore, and you are based in a new consciousness. But it requires discipline. It requires hard work. It requires keeping your ego in check. It requires comparing yourself to others. It requires defensiveness being put in check. It requires you tuning into the spaciousness of nothingness and grasping that unconditional love is actually the only vibration that is of any great importance.
Thank you, Raphael. And so, last question before we move into a more positive light, but something that I see often that I think a lot of people are feeling is something about loneliness. And one person named Goshi Love asked, when will the loneliness pass? And then somebody else asked, how do we find our soul tribe? I feel like I'm losing or not connecting with a lot of my old friendships. I love them dearly, but I have a feeling they're they are not vibrating at my frequency, and that I'll meet them down the road and really feel it consistently. So
Oh.
a lot of people feeling alone during these times. What do you have to say about that?
Well, there's something different about being alone or loneliness.
Right.
Being alone can be a magnificent and beautiful thing when you are with yourself and you're being creative and you're expressing and you're tuning. And being alone is inherently important to the human experience for the evolution of who you are. Now, loneliness is when you are feeling isolated and separate from another. And so sometimes it requires stepping out of one's comfort zone in order to continuously perhaps say yes to those that, as in this question, are not any longer even in alignment with who they are, to find where they are. Because what's interesting is that as you elevate your vibration, you might start to separate from certain friends that are not in that same vibration, and we get that, and that's part of the process. And that is a bridge until you begin to meet in what you might are calling here your tribe of like people that are assimilating with a similar vibration where you're feeling more at home. And you can begin to create that tribe by inviting them etherically into your space, whether that be a group of friends that you want to create that's new, or a partner, or whatever. You can conjure them up because sometimes I think that you forget that you are master creators, and you sometimes apply the manifestation or creation process to job or work or whatever, but not necessarily to community or friends. And you can start to tune into the vibration of that in which you're wanting to attune with, and even lay with them in your room or wherever you are in your home, and tune in and feel them until they materialize in physicality into your experience. And we can teach a whole class about that. But what we're talking about is also accepting those that you are still with on some level, because as you're bridging between the ones that you are with now and to the next one, sometimes it is that you're disregarding those where you haven't given them necessarily a chance, that there is something within their vibration that you still each have to offer one another. And we also want you to drop your pickiness in some senses around partners. We recognize that many of you want to meet somebody, and sometimes you have an idea of who it is that they are, what they should look like, or how they should be. And in doing so, you look at their exterior and sometimes do not open up to the possibility that that inner beauty resides inside. And we want you to also, all of you, be open to others that perhaps might not be the ones exactly that you are thinking about. Because it is that in order to move into this new state of unified consciousness, it's going to be imperative that you begin to practice looking beyond the exterior shell of the physical, looking beyond the personality, looking beyond the ideology and the thought form, and starting to move over into the essence of others. And really begin resonating there and attuning to that, and to practice with that. And in practicing with that, that will actually support you in being able to decipher and to tune into the essence when it is time to the one in which you're seeking to align or to match with, and to open you up to connecting to your soul tribe and other groups of beings. Because sometimes it's not what you think it is, and sometimes it's right under your nose if you have a different perspective in the way in which you are looking at things.
Thank you, Raphael. So another question that we had was from Derived Inside. How can we remember our natural born gifts and abilities we had when we were children? How can we unblock ourselves so we can remember and utilize our gifts and abilities?
Well, it is to see where the playfulness was, what brought you joy. So you can go into meditation and begin to attune to a moment where you are vibrating with joyfulness or playfulness, where you are feeling completely at ease, peaceful, filled with a lot of a sense of whatever it might be. And as you tune into that, you'll find that it might have been when you were drawing, or it might have been when you were singing or dancing or being pretending or playing a game or on the swing or whatever it might be. Start attuning to the vibration of that child that still lives and dwells within you, and keep going back into meditation, back to where it was that you were when you were feeling this excitement and this real joy, when you were aligned with your absolute purpose of who it is that you are. And as you do that, it will start to bring you to an awareness to what was happening. And then you may start to align that awareness with a particular word. And when you align that awareness with a word, that word is in a sense your vibrational signature that will tell you what it is your gift that you are to share in this world, whatever that may be. And you might be very surprised as to what the word is. And then when you put the word I am in front of that word, it will begin to resonate and sing and reverberate out and through your energetic field. And you will know that that is who you are, that that is the vibrational signature of your being and why it is that you have come and what you have to share. Because the joy is in alignment with that Tim was fully expressed during the time of childhood prior to being conditioned by the collective narrative. And then you need to take whatever that is and insert it into everything in which you are doing, not meaning that you have to become that, because sometimes the word is not necessarily a profession or anything like that, but it's an essence. It might be the vibration of creativity, it might be of joy, it might be of service, it might be of humor, whatever it may be. And then you just need to insert that vibration, whatever word comes to you that is your signature, into whatever it is that you are doing, into everything you are doing, and then you are aligned with your purpose. Because your purpose isn't necessarily a vocation, as much as it is a vibration that is inserted into all things that you are doing, from the very minimal, the very basic tasks of washing your hands or cooking or doing your laundry, to more things that you may acquire or understand as being more important in your workforce. And so the thread of that needs to just move through your life. And then you're in the right vibrational match of who it is that you are.
Thank you, Raphael. Amazing. So the next question that we have on the sheet here is from Love Everywhere. And they wrote, Angel, Raphael, can you explain why mental illness has been so misunderstood? How can we help? What can we expect to see as far as therapy changes in the future? Thank you.
Well, it is that the future of medicine for mental health and physical health will all be vibrational. It'll be tweaking your vibrational energetic field on the cellular level, on the emotional and the mental level, and everything will be vibration. And yes, it is deeply misunderstood, and it is labeled as something that is not given the same type of attention or sympathy, and has a stigma attached to it. Unlike if you had diabetes or something like that, others have compassion for it. And there is no difference between schizophrenia and diabetes, in the sense that they're just a mismatch in your vibrational field, firing off different neurons that are not aligning with the perfection of the body in order to perform at its highest capacity. And yet one is greatly judged in more of a negative connotation than others, and relieves less funding, support, medicine, and understanding. your current medical paradigm of way of conducting health is collapsing, and you're starting to already see that for many of you, you do not receive the answers that you are seeking when you go to the doctor regarding your health, and that there's not much to offer. So yes, in terms of if there is a crisis or an accident or a heart attack, there are certain technologies that are magnificent that can help you, of course, and wonderful, that you should all take advantage of. But yet, in terms of really understanding from a vibrational standpoint why the illness, whether mental or physical, is presenting itself, looking at the wholeness of the being and integrating it from a vibrational level, you are deeply in the dark ages. But there will be a great quantum leap in harmonics, sound, color, and vibration very quickly, even within the next few years, in which you will take this deep leap in the healing process and recognize that it is all vibrational, and that whether it is a mental illness or physical illness, most of it comes from the emotional and mental body of a discordant vibration that has gotten caught in a pattern that has having a hard time realigning with the pattern that would bring you a sense of wellness, and that pattern is simply a vibration that is discordant, that needs to be recalibrated, and that the energy of the mind and the thought process and that of stress is one of the largest components to illness across your globe, in addition to the environmental aspects of a lot of your food and water and air that is no longer that is not aligned with the natural cycles, and that your agriculture and things that you are breathing, eating, and drinking are filled with chemicals. And this is in conjunction with the emotional aspect is much of what is occurring. And so there will be a lot more emphasis on the detoxification of the body and of realigning the vibration and looking at the core original stress component that occurred and is continuing to occur, that is creating the illness itself.
And so, Raphael, another question that we have that's very important, as this person wrote, as the shift is happening, how do we deal and assist family that are going through mental health crises without subjecting ourselves to their energetic vibrations?
Oh, of course, this is a very fine balance between boundary and protection of self and compassion for another. And so it is important that you have your ducks in a row first, and that you are clear what your intention and reason is for the support. And if it is that they are a close family member which you love and you want to be there, make sure that before doing so, and of course we always encourage being compassionate and supportive and helpful to others when possible, you must be able to come with it as long as it's not triggering you. If it's triggering you, then you must first do your own internal work before you can go and bring assistance to another. And so take the time prior to meeting with such a friend or a relative or whoever in getting yourself in what you might call the right headspace, taking time to meditate and to protect your energetic field and to get clear and to be in an open state of awareness, and then to do it from a place of your choosing to take time to care for this person because you love them, not because you have to or because you should. And make sure that you are making that choice and you are aware that you are making that choice, not from a place of feeling burdened or put upon or a martyr. Depending upon how you come at it is how it will or will not affect your energetic field, in which you can love them and be of assistance, and at the same time stay in your equilibrium, grounded in your own sense of self.
Thank you, Raphael. So here's a fun question that I think a lot of people can relate to, and this comes from Nick YC, or I think Nick VC Own. It says, "Hi Kelly and Angel Raphael. What does it mean if you keep seeing the numbers 1111 or 11 or 22, or what does it mean? So in like 6 to 8 times a day, what is happening when we start to see these kinds of patterns in our lives? Like me personally as Casey, I see 144 and 444 and all these different things. What should we do?
Well, there are ways of us communicating. You see, we don't communicate to you necessarily in the verbal communication. We speak in a different language of color, sound, and harmonics. We would like to communicate more to you through light language, but one of the closest things to that is the numbers itself, for they do not have necessarily a meaning that can get so mixed up that they can just be messages that let you know that we're communicating. A lot of times when the sequence of the numbers are the same, like the familiarity of 1111, it is a balancing of the left and right hemisphere. Everything is about bringing you the consciousness back into balance. And when you see the numbers that are repeating themselves, it means that we are energetically working on you to recalibrate your vibration back into a harmonious way. Now, the number 144, as you're aware, has great significance in our classwork with the star seeds as certain vibrational numbers. When a certain amount of beings are vibrating at a certain hertz frequency above the heart center, it starts to impact in the collective consciousness, creating a ripple effect around the globe that assists you in moving into a new quadrant of light. And so all of them have different perhaps what you might call meanings, but just know that it's our little way of nudging you and saying hello. And a lot of times those loved ones in which you care about who are no longer in physicality will also present themselves to you in the form of numbers. Sometimes they will also do this in a bird or an animal of some kind, or a particular word might come forward in which they are trying to say hello, because we cannot communicate to you necessarily unless we are using a vessel in the way that we are using this and many others across the globe in the language that you are accustomed to receiving our awareness in.
No, well, thank you, Raphael. That's wonderful. And I guess the last question that we'll end it on is that a lot of people are wondering is, will 2022 have a gentler energy slash has the growth of 2021 prepared us for 2022?
I don't know, will it?
We shall see.
That is up to all of you now, isn't it?
Right.
Yes. It will have what it will have, dependent upon where it is that you are in your growth process and what timeline you are choosing. So we encourage you to choose love, to choose unity, to choose seeing that all things are aligning in a way that is bringing more prosperity, more abundance, more health, more vitality, more joy, more playfulness to each and every one of you. Keep seeing that. Hold the vision. That's the important work we're all going to be doing together. Holding the vision for what you want, not the fear of what you don't want or the expectation of something dreadful that's about to occur. Now we've even ourselves said that in October the energies will intensify, but perhaps you can choose to see that in the way in which you want to see it. How will it intensify? Maybe it will intensify in so much abundance that the bank account can't hold it. Intensity, it can be in many different forms. Maybe it will intensify that you're falling in love so much that you're dizzy and you can't stand up straight. We don't know. How are you choosing it to be? That is up to you. With that, I send you all of my love and all of my light. Look forward to doing our work together as the starseeds continue to play with the Merlin and the magic, and we move into higher octaves of vibrations, accelerating the consciousness across the globe. Many blessings and good day.
Good day.
everybody. Thanks so much for joining the call today. Good to see all of you. Much love. Next Sunday, we're having a special call. You can only be on that call if you're a Starseed. If you haven't taken Starseed 1, I'm going to send out a link right now so that you can do that and receive the downloads to get into Starseed 2 with all of us. And next week, we are giving away 3 beautiful magical wands that are made with incredible crystals that'll be aligned with your specific vibration. All right, I love you. And anything else, Case? I think we're good. All right, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, love, everybody. Bye-bye.